Mr. Sergeant of Arms, invite the members into the chamber and close doors. I hereby declare the House of Representatives of the 114th General Assembly of the State of Tennessee now in session. Will the members please stand? Will the visitors in the gallery please stand and remain standing to the Pledge of Allegiance? Representative Hardaway will introduce the chaplain of the day. Representative Hardaway.
Good morning, members. Our pastor of today is a dear friend, the Reverend Dr. Earl J. Fisher. As a leading voice in social justice and Black liberation efforts, Reverend Earl J. Fisher, PhD, combines ministry and scholarship to effect positive changes in Memphis, Tennessee, and throughout the country. A native of Benton Harbor, Michigan, he is the son of Minister Claudia Fisher and Mr. Earl Bradley. In 1999, he journeyed to Memphis on a basketball scholarship to HBCU Lemoyne College, where he would lay the foundation for his impactful future. Reverend Fisher earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Computer Science in 2003, and he later obtained a Master of Divinity degree from Memphis Theological Seminary in May 2008. He is ordained in both the Christian Church, Disciples of Christ, and Missionary Baptist denominations. In 2018, he completed a Doctor of Philosophy in Communication from the University of Memphis and currently serves as the senior pastor of Abyssinian Baptist Church, affectionately known as a Blackest Church in the Memphis and Shelby County area. An influential community organizer, Reverend Fisher co-founded the Memphis Grassroots Organization Coalition in 2015 in response to the tragic death of Darius Stewart at the hands of a Memphis police officer. He has spearheaded initiatives focusing on criminal justice reform, media accountability, and voter empowerment, including the formation of #UpTheVote901 in 2017 to amplify political engagement in Memphis and Shelby County. Dr. Fisher is also a prominent commentator on social issues, lending his voice to respected platforms such as CNN, MSNBC, PBS, and several local media outlets in Memphis, thus highlighting the concerns and aspirations of marginalized communities. Reverend Dr. Earl J. Fisher.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Brother Hardaway. To all of you men and women of this august body, let us pray. Precious Lord, take our hand. Lead us on and let us stand, God of our weary years, God of our silent tears, God of Harriet's lantern and Denmark's discernment and Nat's revolutionary rage and Martin's righteous resilience. God of the ancestors who bled and believed even when the laws were against them. We come before you from the corners of this state where cries often go unanswered, from communities burdened by policies made in places like this. But today, oh God, we do not come to perform, we come to remember and to remind. We remember those who saw injustice and refused to bow. We remember those who followed your voice through the swampy forest and showed us that freedom is always worth the risk. We remember the freedom fighters in Tennessee who stood up and spoke out against lynching and segregation and incarceration and exploitation, whose names may never be called even in this chamber, but whose blood built these floors. God, as the gavel drops and decisions are made, do not allow comfort to trump conviction. Don't let procedure silence the prophets. Don't permit policy to be divorced from principle. Remind every person in this place that it is possible to follow the law and still violate love. It is possible to uphold order and still betray justice. It is possible to speak peace while sowing harm. So grant us all holy discomfort, the kind that doesn't sit silently when the vulnerable are vilified, the kind that remembers that real leadership listens, real power protects, and real love liberates. God bless this body, not merely with decorum, but with discernment, not with ease, but with empathy, not with the will to dominate, but the courage to do right no matter the cost. I pray these things in the name of the one who turned over tables, walked with the poor, and still shows up on the side of the oppressed, in the name of all things holy, and in the strong name of a loving, living, and liberating Black Messiah, Jesus the Christ. All of God's people said together, amen.
Amen.
Representative Hardaway would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Clerk, please take the roll.
Roll call.
Ms. Clerk, please take the roll.
Mr. Speaker, 89 members present.
Let the journal reflect Representing Keesling, Kumar, Pearson, Moody, Martin of Hamilton, and Love are excused. Next order, Ms. Clerk.
Welcoming, honoring, and announcements.
We have a presentation. I'll keep your hands up. I'll get it as we're doing that. Representative Hardaway, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. I request that the Sergeant at Arms escort our guests into the chamber.
Mr. Sergeant Arms, please escort the guests to the well. Representative Hardaway, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. And yes, this wonderful looking woman in the black dress and outfit is our own Marissa King. You know, on April the 3rd, 1968, Dr. King gave one of, if not the most profound and stirring speeches of his life. But the irony is that one of the things that made that speech so significant was the prophecy that he would lose his life for the work he's doing. He did, rather. In trying to understand those times and appreciate the historical significance, I don't believe there's any better way than to hear and see it through the eyes of those who have assumed the mantle of leadership. Reverend Dr. Earl Fisher, and those who are yet learning how to place historical information into the proper context. To do so, they need to hear from us. And Mr. Speaker, I was negligent in requesting that Joe Towns and Larry Miller would stand with me initially. You're looking now at the only legislators who were there at that time in Memphis, Tennessee, involved in one way, shape, form, or the other with the activities, then it's now history. April 3rd, the mountaintop speech. April 4th, the assassination of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. I've asked Dr. Fisher to bring us a message that will allow us to really understand who Dr. King was, and his messaging has got to be more than the commercial message that it's been converted into today. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I would ask that you recognize Dr. Fisher.
Dr. Fisher, you're recognized.
Thank you again, Mr. Speaker, and again to you, Representative Hardaway, and again to each of you. Let me begin by saying our heart is with all of those who have suffered through the inclement weather of last night and remain in the crosshairs of the inclement weather that is pending. And it was right, in my estimation, that Governor Lee issued a state of emergency for Tennessee. And I'm inclined to contend that we've been in a state of emergency for quite some time. I stand today with the blessed burden of honoring the life, the love, and the legacy of the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We gather in solemn commemoration of his assassination in 1968 at the Lorraine Motel, a location I have experienced and encountered numerous times, a place where I have been fortunate to speak at. And on April 4th, 2015 to be exact, I laid a wreath of honor over the balcony of room 306. In that sacred moment, I felt the weight and the pressure and the stress of that legacy. And because of that, I can speak today with clarity and peculiarity about our current predicament. With clear eyes and an honest heart, I must confess and lament the landscape of our communities, the condition of our country within and beyond Tennessee, makes my task today exceedingly and abundantly complicated. Dr. King was killed in Memphis 57 years ago because he was so committed to truth telling, justice seeking, and peacemaking that his very presence became a threat to the powers that be. As I stand here today, I would be remiss if I didn't name the duplicity I feel before me right now. I'm not convinced that truth is welcomed here. I wonder if Dr. King would be welcomed here today, if he would be allowed a moment to make honest and authentic remarks. If I were to simply recite much of what King actually said, I might be found out of order or ruled as breaking decorum. In 1965, King declared, quote, "The price that America must pay for the continued oppression of Black people is the price of its own destruction," end quote. In 1967, Dr. King said plainly, quote, "White Americans must recognize that justice for Black people cannot be achieved without radical changes to the structure of our society," end quote. Yes, Dr. King said that. And nevertheless, I stand in the tradition of Dr. King, the Black prophetic tradition, a tradition that if it were welcomed in this sacred space, if the body politic and those entrusted with justice were as sincere about embracing King's nature as we are about evoking King's name, then perhaps we'd find more peace and prosperity in our neighborhoods, our cities, our counties, and this country. But too often, our state houses are rich in political capital, but poor in political courage. Yet the spirit of King, the spirit of power, passion, and poise, dare I say the spirit of the living God, continues to push us, not just today, but every day, not towards comfort, but towards conviction, not towards performance, but towards purpose. And so in that same spirit, with the weight of the moment on my and our shoulders and the hope of my ancestors in my heart, I submit these words of lament and call forth in all of us a collective repentance. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fisher, Reverend Dr. Fisher. Members, on that fateful night, 1968, April 3rd, Dr. King prophesies that he might not get to the mountaintop with us, but it was more than just the oratorical splendor of his speech. On April the 4th, as Dr. King stood on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel, Dr. King looked down and saw Ben Branch, noted saxophonist of that day, and he said to him, Ben, I want you to play Precious Lord tonight. I want you to play it pretty. Ben said, I always do. Dr. King turned and said a couple of words to Jesse Jackson, and then he turned back to Ben Branch and said, no, but I want you to play it tonight. Really want you to play it. Members, Dr. King didn't live to hear Ben Branch play Precious Lord. I can think of nothing more significant when we think of Dr. King's legacy and his social consciousness, that it was wrapped in his Christian values and principles. Precious Lord is a sound, it's more than a song. We hear ourselves in our commitment to the will of God. The best way for us to start to pass the message on, to make sure that the message is genuine, is for myself, Joe Towns Jr., Larry Miller, to bring our young folks along with us. Mr. Speaker, I would ask that you would recognize Marissa King as she performs Precious Lord.
Ms. King, you're recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I would ask that you recognize Representative Joe Towns Jr.
Representative Towns.
Mr. Speaker and members, thank you for an opportunity to share with you. Pastor, thank you for all you've done in the city and continue to do. And human beings are something very complicated. Seem like we just can't get it together, you know. I had the misfortune or fortune, you would say, in 1968, and I've told the story before, to live on the street at the time when the shot was fired that murdered Dr. King. I was a kid. Lying on the floor, never will forget it. Television on, my grandmother on her knees looking out down towards Lorraine Motel, and we heard just one thing. You can hear the echo. Lucky Heart, right across the street, all the little places in the community that are now boutique places. And the place was filled. Back then, they had the dark blue cars, police officers, and they were everywhere like ants or roaches. There were just so many of them. And she said, I bet that's Dr. King. At that time, I really didn't understand. I was just a kid. I didn't understand what she was talking about. So the hotel was about as far as from here, not to the Senate. It was not that far, maybe out to the elevators. And so on the news later that night, it was confirmed. Later that evening, it was confirmed that Dr. King had been murdered. Well, that's where I grew up in the civil rights movement, back and forth selling papers, newspaper downtown, in and out of the stores with people that would allow me to work as a kid. That's when the activities were real fierce in Memphis. This Precious Lord song was one of Dr. King's favorite gospel songs. One of the things he also did not get an opportunity to do, because he was a man of peace, he wanted to have a march in Memphis that was disrupted by some of the people in Memphis. He never got a chance to do the march, so Harry Belafonte, Coretta Scott King, and his wife, other people like people that were part of the movement, Memphis folk as well, came and had that march in Memphis, that nonviolent march in Memphis. It still went on, but he never got an opportunity to participate in that march. It hurt him so bad that he could not have had the original march with peace, because his message was a message of peace. And as a young person, there again, that's something that I didn't understand. How are you going to be peaceful when people won't allow you to be and they're persecuting you? How do you be peaceful? Something I had to grow into to understand what he meant. There's a great spiritual wisdom in it if you understand it. Doesn't mean you don't assert, you don't fight, but you got to be peaceful. This message was a message of love. It's a message of love, which it seems as if we are becoming more and more short supply. But the amazing thing about love, it doesn't cost anything to give. It doesn't cost you anything. But it's in short supply. We can't make it unless we love one another. As a human species, we cannot make it. But Memphis is just so riddled with all kinds of fantastic history of this country and of the world. It's a mecca of all kinds of civil rights history, American history, that's gone around the world that people come from all over the world to see and participate in. And you would do yourself really a great favor to come sometimes and enrich yourself. We know we're going to have you all down next week or so, a couple of weeks. We want you all to take full advantage of what's there. And, you know, kids have a little saying, don't believe the hype. Don't believe the nonsense of the hype. Come see for yourself. You got people here that can teach and tell you really what went on. And it's a part of our state that is valued and is contributing and will continue to do so. And the richness that we have there, we should cherish it. It's unfortunate that old folk had a lot of great saying to say, you don't miss your water till your well run dry. You don't want your well to run dry. That means that all the water's gone, then you really value the water. Too late, you know. But that was 1968 was a very turbulent year in this country, a very beneficial year in this country, and a year that has been indelibly marked on our hearts and mind in this country. Mr. Speaker, thank you for allowing me to share, and members.
Mr. Speaker, I ask that you recognize Representative Miller.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Let me thank Reverend Fisher and Representative Hardaway, Marissa. Thank you, Representative Towns. I wasn't sure when Representative Hardaway decided to say, come up, you know, didn't know exactly what it was about. but I began to reminisce and think about it. Where was I when Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated? At the Boys Club. It all came back. I remember that. And we were there playing, doing whatever we were doing as young boys. And the rector came in and said, "You got to go home. You have to leave." And I had no idea what was going on, but I wasn't that far from home. So I just remember running out of that place and running home. And basically, the rest is history. It was a shot that was heard around the world. Around the world, that shot was heard. And from that point, Black man, death became a holiday. So when you think about that, when you think about that history, it has already been said. It's something that will never die, actually. His legacy will never die. And that's what it's all about. So we want to thank you all for your patience. And thank you again for the presentation.
All right. Thank you, Representative Townsend Miller. Just one more thing. It's a caution. It's a challenge for those of us, no matter how much you know or don't know about the story. You should feel compelled to fight, not merely for your own freedom, but the freedom of all of our citizens in America. You should not feel the need to request permission or to require approval on when, on where, on how you will fight as Americans for our freedoms and liberties. Mr. Speaker, would you come down to commemorate this event with a photo, please?
We are under welcome, honoring, and announcements. Representative Davis, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to welcome one of our pages today. Her name is Jasmine Smith, and she is a 9th grade student at Knoxville Montessori School. But what is so phenomenal about Jasmine, and what I'm excited for her, is that she is a 2-time winner of the Tennessee Stars Scholarship. And she has won for 6th and 8th grade. She won first place last year. And then this year for 9th and 12th graders, she won 2nd place. So she's the very first 2-time winner, and we're incredibly proud of this Tennessee Star. So please welcome Jasmine Smith. And also we need to tell Mr. and Mrs. Smith that are here in the audience, you done good.
Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I too have a page from my district. I have Miss Sophia Dubosarski. She is an 8th grader at Sunset Middle School, and her dad is up in the audience. So if y'all would please make her feel welcome. Thank you.
Speaker Pro Tem Marsh.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I stand today to recognize my page of the day, Nico Higgs, who is here with his parents, Meredith and Ray Higgs, and his grandparents, Al and Mary Ruth Simmons of Bedford County. Nico is in the 2nd grade at Thomas Magnet School. Nico placed second in the 2024 Secretary of State Civics Essay Contest and has a big day planned with Secretary of State. Please welcome Nico and his family.
Representative Gant.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As many of you know, last night we had several storms across West Tennessee that are marching across the state now. And with sadness, we had 6 people that were killed last night in 2 separate tornadoes that hit my district in Fayette, Hardeman, and McNairy. So I just want to take a moment of silence and ask that you pray for those families in the coming days. Thank you.
Representative Vital.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I just want to welcome my daughter Tess again to the General Assembly. I think she's visiting too much, but she doesn't live in my district, so I'm happy. So thank you.
Representative Martin of Carroll.
Members, if you don't mind standing as well, last night, Representative Darby and I in Carroll County, one of our dear friend of mine was driving the electrical truck. They wrecked into a creek, and his passenger, which is also one of our electrical members there in Carroll County, passed away. It was about 2:30 last night. Heavy heart for our entire community. It's a young guy, Chance Carlton. He was 26 with a 2-year-old at home, a young family. And I want to pray for that family, our community, but also our linemen who went out last night in that storm. It was a tragic event, but we pray for those guys. So please, a moment of silence for Carroll County, the linemen, Chance's family, and our whole community.
Representative Renaud.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to ask you to recognize or to welcome my page for today, Klein Boyd, who is an 8th grader at Signal Mountain Middle High School. He lives on Signal Mountain in Hamilton County. He is also the winner of the Secretary of State's essay contest this year out of 4,000 entries. So please welcome him and his father, who is here up there, Mr. Weston Boyd. Thank you.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I also want to recognize a page that I have today, Shattuck Adams back here. Shattuck is in 10th grade at St. George's back home in Shelby County, and his parents, Oscar and Lala Adams, are unfortunately not here. She is my dentist as well. So just everyone, please welcome Shattuck to the Capitol today. Thank you.
Representative Bolso.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, please join me in welcoming who was perhaps the youngest participant in our proceedings this morning, a page. Here's little George Jaggermongi, excuse me. George is 6 years old. He's a kindergartner at St. Henry's School. He's small but mighty. He is already an award-winning author. As you know, the Secretary of State conducts a civics essay competition every year, and out of 4,356 participants, George was one of 12 winners across the state. His mother and father, Heather and Dean, are with us in the balcony. So please join me in welcoming and congratulating George on such a tremendous accomplishment at such tender years.
Representative Brooks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good morning. I want to welcome my granddaughter, Callie De Silva from Cedar Grove Elementary School, who came all the way from Rutherford County to be a page here today. Her dad and aunts and uncle are up in the gallery here to support her. Thank you, Callie, for being here.
Representative Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I know Representative Gant talked a little bit about Hardeman County, but also want you in the House to help me remember and pray for the folks down in Grand Junction, Tennessee, in a portion of the district where they were hit very hard. And I don't think there were any deaths. We have not found out yet, but I don't think it was there. But a lot of them were trapped in their homes because trees fell on the homes and so forth. So for all the folks down in West Tennessee who weathered the storm, and those of us across the state, if we could offer a moment of silence. Amen. Thank you.
Representative Jones of Davison.
Thank you, colleagues. I would like to lift up the name of Armando Abrego Garcia, who's 29 years old. We're the same age. And last month, he was returning from his job as a sheet metal apprentice, picking up his 5-year-old son, who also has autism and other disabilities, when he was kidnapped and disappeared by this Trump administration. They now say that it was an administrative error. And this father, this man, was granted protection status in 2019 from being sent back to El Salvador. And now the administration is saying they cannot return him. And he's been sent to the most notorious prison there, where he faces cruel and inhumane treatment and torture and other abuse. But he is not the only citizen who has been disappeared. Too many in this country at our college campuses are being kidnapped by this racist organization you call ICE and taken away without hearing or due process. It is wrong, and we have an obligation to fight for due process, to fight for constitutional rights, and to fight for the people, our neighbors, who are being kidnapped.
Representative Hemmer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Before I recognize my pages today, I got to think about one of my favorite Mark Twain quotes: "Never let a little schooling get in the way of your education." So as I want to recognize my 2 pages, who are also my 2 kids, Evan and Nora Hemmer, welcome them here today. They're getting a real education because school is out today and mom is out of town. Also want to draw attention to how cute they are today. I did dress them and put them to self, but beware, they are half feral. So I'll let you guess which side of the family that came from. And they are, someone in the family, maybe their uncle, has taught them how to be mean and fight back and potentially bite. So please keep your hands and feet in your desk area. Thank you.
Representative Williams.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I too have a page of the day. This is young Mateo Podesta. He is a student at Highland Rim Academy and a scholarship winner this year for the Secretary of State's program. He's a handsome fellow. I tried to give him a bow tie, he wouldn't take it. But his father is here with us today, Dr. Podesta. He works at Tennessee Heart there in Cookeville, and so I hope you make young Mateo welcome. Thank you.
Chairman Faison.
Good morning, members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, I am very excited to have the very best leadership group you've seen all year long come to the Capitol. This is Leadership Cott County right here. Y'all make them all feel welcome, please.
Larry Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, members, University of Memphis Day on the Hill is next Wednesday. And at noon in conference room 5C, we will have grab and go lunch. So if you want to come by and visit with University of Memphis, they'll be here next Wednesday. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Chairman Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to rise to give a shout out and a sense of appreciation to the team over at Nashville Severe Weather. Most of you probably follow them on Twitter or other social media, Nash Severe WX. When most of us are in bed or worried about what's happening with the weather, this team, it's Nashville based and they have other county outlets now, as well as all the meteorologists in the various media companies, do their best to keep us informed and keep us safe. So I just want to give a shout out to these people who take the time to keep us informed and have saved countless lives by tracking the weather on our behalf. So if you'd join me in showing our appreciation in Nashville severe weather.
Representative Sparks.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, some of us drive the treacherous, arduous, awful drive up I-24. And up that drive, I noticed TDOT help truck drivers on the side of the road, cleaning out the ditches, helping us get here safely. And many of us that came in the class of 2010 may remember the story that Commissioner Shore, John Shore, TDOT Commissioner, shared with us about a TDOT help truck driver that was killed in the line of duty. And I remember him saying he gave his life for $23,800 a year. So I want to thank this General Assembly for helping them get the raises. Thank Butch Ely. And y'all give it up for not only our TDOT help truck drivers, but also remember the life of Robert Nowinski that died in 2011. Give it up for TDOT, folks.
Representative Haston.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My district lost a legend this past week. Matter of fact, the state of Tennessee lost a legend in the passing of Mr. Jim Ayers. The work and the legacy that he's left behind with the thousands of students that he's helped get a better education and a better career and a better life needs to always be remembered. And the work that Janet Ayers and the foundation will continue to do in his name will also be a part of that legacy. I just ask for a moment of silence for Mr. Jim Ayers. Thank you.
Representative Sapicki.
Good morning, members. The Consul General of Israel has notified me and Chairman Harris that they are going to be putting together for members of the Israel-Tennessee Caucus a delegation going to Israel. If you are a member of the Israel-Tennessee Caucus and you would like to go on that delegation, myself or Chairman Harris need to know by end of business today, which is 5 o'clock. Now, here's one caveat. If you've already been to Israel, you do not qualify for this. It is for members who have not gone to Israel before, and they know if you have or haven't. They keep pretty good records over there. So if you would like to go and be a member of the Israel delegation, they're going to allow 6 members from Tennessee. So please let myself or Chairman Harris know. But remember, if you've been to Israel before, you do not qualify. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Welcoming, honoring announcements. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Introduction of resolutions.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That all resolutions properly filed be introduced pursuant to Rule number 17 and placed on the consent calendar, referred to the appropriate standing committee.
The objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate Joint Resolutions congratulatory and memorializing.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That all Senate Joint Resolution congratulatory and memorializing. I that has to be placed on the consent calendar pursuant to Rule number 17.
The objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Resolutions lying over.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That all resolutions lying over be referred to the appropriate standing committee.
With objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Introduction of bills.
Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. That House Bills 1,439 be introduced and passed on first consideration.
The objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate bills on first consideration.
Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and thank you, Representative Todd. I move that Senate Bills 141, 152, 160, 258, 276, 299, 332, 365, 411, 434, 484, 560, 623, 753, 763, 773, 881, 882, 883, 933, 1,216, 1,237, 1,313, 1,379, 1,417 transmitted by the Senate be held on the desk pending third consideration of their companion House bills.
With objection, so ordered. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Senate bills on second consideration, House bills on second consideration, petitions, memorials, reports from standing committees, reports from select committees, calendars. Mr. Speaker, the House has a consent calendar.
Vice Chairman McCallum, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move passage of the consent calendar on third and final consideration in keeping with Rule 50.
Vice Chairman moves passage of the consent calendar, properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, any objections been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no objections filed.
Anyone seeking recognition on the consent calendar? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none, we're voting on the consent calendar. All members in favor vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Grills, aye. Leatherwood, aye. Let the journal reflect Representative Wright is excused. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 91, no nays.
Having received a constitutional majority, I declare consent calendar passed without objection. The most reconsidered is tabled. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, the House has a regular calendar.
Call the first bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 918 by Chairman Slater relative to hunting licenses for disabled veterans participating in hunts sponsored by non-for-profit organizations. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Representative Slater, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 1140.
Representative Slater moves to substitute and conform Senate Bill 1140, properly seconded without objection. So ordered. Representative Slater.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 1140 on third and final consideration.
Representative Slater moves passage of Senate Bill 1140 on third and final consideration. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, call the first amendment.
House Agriculture and Natural Resources Committee Amendment number 1. Mr. Speaker, it's the same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Chairman Todd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Same as Senate amendment. Move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Representative Slater, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This legislation will provide a temporary hunting license for disabled veterans when they are part of a hunting experience that is sponsored and paid for by a not-for-profit organization. With that, I renew my motion.
Representative Slater renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 1140 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 91, no nays.
Senate Bill 1140 having received a constitutional majority, everybody declare it passed without objection. Most reconsidered is tabled. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 510 by Chairman Terry relative to health care. Mr. Speaker, Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 554.
Chairman Terry moves substitute and conform Senate Bill 554, probably second without objection. So ordered. Chairman Terry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 554 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Terry moves passage of Senate Bill 554 on third and final consideration, probably second. Mr. Clerk, call the first amendment.
House Health Committee Amendment number 1, same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Chairman Martin, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment is the same as the Senate. Move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill directs the Department of Health to compile information related to recruiting and retaining physicians. The Department of Health will provide that information back to us with preliminary information at the end of 2025 and the final report end of 2026. I renew my motion.
Chairman Terry renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 554 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Zachary, aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 90, no nays.
Senate Bill 554 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare it passed without objection. Most reconsider is tabled. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 830 by Chairman Terry relative to the Medical Cannabis Commission. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 299.
Chairman Terry moves substitute and conform Senate Bill 299, probably seconded without objection. So ordered. Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 299 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Terry moves passage of Senate Bill 299 on third and final consideration, probably seconded. Ms. Clerk, call it first amendment.
House Health Committee Amendment number 1, Mr. Speaker, same as Senate Amendment number 1.
Chairman Martin, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This amendment is the same as the Senate. Move to withdraw.
Without objection, amendment number 1 withdrawn. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman Terry, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With the ongoing discussions at the federal level of rescheduling cannabis, this bill has 2 actions. Section 1 expands the eligibility to serve on the Medical Cannabis Commission to caregivers, and Section 2 clarifies that the commission can make policy recommendations. If medical cannabis were to be rescheduled this year, we would need to pass legislation 2026 to give direction to the Commissioner of Mental Health and Substance Abuse on how to realign the scheduling of medical cannabis in Tennessee. I renew my motion.
Chairman Terry renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sponsor, there's also a provision in this bill, correct me if I'm wrong, that is removing the requirements to have someone from each grand division represented on this commission. Is that true, Mr. Sponsor?
Chairman Terry.
Yeah, thank you. And that's one of the issues that we've had. The governor's appointments, he's had difficulty getting those a quorum, and that's one of the reasons why we're doing this. He has not been able to get each grand division, and so when we're removing that, that's going to be able for him to better get appointments in there. Secondly, from the caregiver perspective, patients haven't been able to come to the meeting, so it's a quorum issue.
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Are you saying then that he was able to get people from each grand division represented? That's not the issue. There are people within each grand division that meet the requirements to serve on this commission. So that's not an issue. You're just saying that those who are on the commission, based on when the meetings are called, they may or may not be able to have a quorum? I think there are other people that maybe could be reappointed if the people that are there can't get there, is what I'm trying to get at.
Chairman Terry.
Thank you. Yes, we're just trying to decrease the barriers in order to get people on the commission. They just have not been able to get a quorum. And I think this past year, none of his appointments were there.
Leader Camper.
So it doesn't seem like well, to me, that doesn't rise to a point where we need to get rid of each grand division, because the people, regardless, it appears, where they come from across the state, it's the people that's been appointed to the commission that's not able to come or didn't come. I don't see that the representation for the grand division is the issue. So you could have a situation where everyone comes from Middle Tennessee simply because they can come to a meeting, but you're not getting representation based on the issues that people are dealing with across the state. So that's my real concern.
Chairman Terry.
Thank you. I just know that they've had quorum issues, and if he can get people on the commission, regardless of where they come from, but caregivers, patients, and subject matter experts. That's what we're looking for.
Leader Camper.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Sponsor.
Chairman Clemens.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I just want to make sure, clear for the record, this isn't intended in any way to limit our state's ability to legalize cannabis if it's rescheduled at the federal level. Is that correct?
Chairman Terry.
Oh, that's correct.
Chairman Clemens, all good?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Could you give some clarification again on exactly what you're doing with this legislation and in reference to the Cannabis Commission?
Chairman Terry.
Thank you. And so the federal level, they're looking at rescheduling cannabis, and they were actually supposed to have hearings earlier this year in January, and they've actually pushed those back, and it may be June or it may be later. And so what we're trying to do is ensure that we can get a quorum on the Cannabis Commission, and then make sure that they could give us policy recommendations if they reschedule cannabis, so that next year we can file legislation, assuming it changes at the federal level, so that we can give direction to the Commissioner of Mental Health and Substance Abuse on how we would, because right now cannabis is a Schedule 6. And so say they take it off schedule or move it to Schedule 3 or something along those lines, we want to be in line for either research or so like right now our laws say that I think up to 0.6 you can apply. But if it goes away and it's rescheduled, we want to remove things like that so that we could actually do research at MTSU or Tennessee Tech or something like that.
Representative Miller.
Currently, the makeup of the commission, how many members are on the commission currently?
Chairman Terry.
9.
Representative Miller.
That's what I didn't understand. I was under assumption based on Representative Camper. I thought it was maybe 3, but it's actually 9. And those 9 members cover both Middle, East, and West Tennessee currently.
Chairman Terry.
Yes.
Representative Miller.
Thank you.
All right. Any further discussion? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 299, vote aye. When the bell rings, those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Cheryl, aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 82, 2 nays.
Senate Bill 299 having received a constitutional majority, everybody declare passed without objection. The motion reads here is table. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 884 by Chairman Todd.
Chairman Todd at your desk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move House Bill 884 to the first available space, first available calendar of 2026.
First available space, first available calendar, 2026. Without objection, so ordered. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 408 by Chairman White, relative to education. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 689.
Chairman White moves substitute form Senate Bill 689, probably seconded without objection, so ordered. Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 689 on third and final consideration.
Chairman White moves passage of Senate Bill 689 on third and final consideration, probably seconded. Mr. Clerk, call it First Amendment.
House Education Committee Amendment number 1.
Vice Chairman Raper, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is not in the Senate amendment. Move to adopt and defer to the sponsor for further explanation.
Vice Chairman Raper moves adoption of committee amendment number 1, probably seconded. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. All those in favor of adopting committee amendment number 1 say aye, aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. You adopt. Next amendment, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, no further amendments.
Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker and members. This bill was given to me by THEC, Tennessee Higher Education Commission. What it does, it eliminates the governing board of directors of the Tennessee Student Assistance Corporation called TSAC. It just moves it under THEC for administrative purposes. And the reason why TSAC has been the guarantor of a lot of loan forgiveness programs, and we only have a few students left in those programs. I think 5 left in the minority program, 0 left in the Tennessee Teaching Scholarship. So it just makes sense that we would consolidate this 15-member board and put it under THEC to continue on operations and consolidation of efforts there. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman White renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Hardaway, you're recognized.
Thank you, Chairman. To the sponsor, I didn't get to you earlier. Will this change the nature of the business of TSAT?
Chairman White.
What it does, it just moves the operation under THEC. It's kind of duplication of efforts now when we have so few students left in some of these programs. So the students that are still left in these programs, it will just be under the review board, advisory board of THEC. TSAC is a 15-member board and really don't need to have duplication on this. So things will continue the same. Just move it under THEC supervision.
Representative Hardaway.
And you mentioned some programs which were winding down. Are they sunset, or are you expecting legislation to eliminate those programs?
Chairman White.
No, sir, not to eliminate them. There are just so few students left. Like I say, these are loan forgiveness. For example, like the future teacher scholarships. Like if you agree to teach in a rural community for 2 years, you get a loan from a grant from the state, and you don't have to pay it back as long as you complete your obligation. And so what this program just oversees that and makes sure that these programs operate as designed by the General Assembly.
Representative Hardaway.
All right. Thank you, sponsor. Thank you, Speaker.
Any further discussion? Any objection to the question? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 689 as amended, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Vital, aye. Cochran, aye. Slater, aye. Zachary, aye. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 77, 10 nays, 3 present not voting.
Senate Bill 689 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare it passed without objection. Most reconsider table. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 579 by Chairman Doggett and others relative to public safety. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Doggett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 456.
Chairman Doggett moves substitute and form Senate Bill 456 without objection. So ordered. Chairman Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 456 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Doggett moves passage of Senate Bill 456 on third and final consideration. Public sector. Mr. Clerk, call it First Amendment.
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Doggett, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We are adding robbery to the definitions of crime of violence. And with that, I renew my motion.
Chairman Doggett renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Seeing none. Representative Jones of Davison.
Thank you. And so from my understanding, we're trying to add robbery to the definition of violent crime, Representative Doggett. And so my questions are a series of questions. First of all, would it be considered robbery to steal a retirement check from a senior? Would it be considered robbery to steal money for public health and international aid programs that benefit the poorest among us? Would it be robbery to steal money from farmers? Because when, I'm not advocating robbery, but it seems when the poor steal, you call it violence. But when the wealthy and their allies in government steal, we call it efficiency. The biggest robber barons in this nation are the billionaire class and their allies in government who are stealing from poor and working class Americans to enrich themselves. And so I just want to end with these words from Frederick Douglass, and I would like to hear your response, Representative Doggett. He says, where justice is denied, where poverty is enforced, where ignorance prevails, and where any one class is made to feel that society is in an organized conspiracy to oppress, rob, and degrade them, neither persons nor property will be safe. And so I would love to hear your response, Representative Doggett.
Chairman Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I had a difficult time hearing some of those remarks, but we're just simply adding violence or robbery to the definition of crime of violence.
Representative Jones.
I'm happy to repeat it. What we are seeing right now at the top levels of this government is robbery. Robbery from our seniors, from their retirement benefits, robbery from our farmers by cutting programs, robbery from poor and working class people across the world and across this nation when we cut aid programs, when we cut public health programs. And so we're seeing a robbery happening. And my argument to you is that when poor people commit robbery, as your bill is trying to assess, we call it violence. You want to add this as a violent crime. But when the wealthy rob people and commit theft, you call it government efficiency. What we are seeing right now is robbery from this White House, from the highest levels of our government, and these are criminal actions. And so if we're gonna be consistent about this, we should consider what is happening at the national level, what is happening even in this state house, a form of robbery, legalized robbery, but nonetheless violent. And that is my concern, and that is my proposition to you, Representative Doggett. Those are also acts of robbery, and I would hope that they will be considered robbery under this bill. And so are they considered robbery according to your definition of robbery in this legislation?
Chairman Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. If what you are describing meets the element of the crime of robbery, then that might be so.
Leader Lamberth, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So we live in a strange time. Chairman Doggett, thank you for bringing a bill that recognizes violent crime for exactly what it is, violent crime. When a person shoves a gun in the face of another person or takes a knife and puts it to their throat and says, give me your money. When a person goes to a child or a mother or a father or a hardworking individual that's done everything they possibly can to live right in this world and try to rise up out of poverty, a good, hardworking Tennessean gets punched in the face and held on the ground by multiple individuals and said, give me the things that you have worked hard for. That's very different from some sort of process through a democratic process that was voted upon or any entity of government that we may disagree with. But I understand that there are those in this world that are so far gone that they don't see the distinction between violent crime and a process that we are all a part of to try to improve our society. It's a sad day in Tennessee that there are some that are so far gone that they don't understand just how violent and horrible that is to be victimized in that way. But I've walked those roads with victims of violent crime. I've held their hand and I've had their tears dry on the lapels of my suit. And I've been poor in my life, and I never thought it was okay to put a gun in somebody's face and take what they'd worked hard for. It's a violent crime. I appreciate you recognizing it as such, and I sure wish everybody else would recognize it that way too.
Chairman Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I renew my motion.
Representative Barrett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Sponsor, can you
educate the body as to what the elements of robbery are in statute currently?
Chairman Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I certainly can. Robbery is the intentional or knowing theft of property from the person of another by violence or putting the person in fear. It's currently a C felony under this statute. By adding robbery to the definition of crime of violence, it makes it a B felony if someone has a previous conviction of a crime of violence while they commit another offense with the use of a firearm.
Representative Barrett.
Thank you, sponsor, for pointing that out. I just wanted to make sure everybody understood that the term violence is already a requirement and an element of the statute today. All we are doing with this bill is adding robbery, which requires violence, to be added to the definition and to the list of terms for what is considered a crime of violence under the statute. Thank you, Mr. Sponsor, for bringing the bill.
Representative Gillespie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sponsor, we've talked about this a bunch, not just today, but in the past. First of all, thank you so much. I support this 100%. It's common sense. Some of the comments I've heard here today are appalling, and it is just sickening to hear what I've heard. With that said, I support this 100%. And I look forward to working with you in the future to find more common sense solutions to some of our most heinous people in this state. Thank you.
Representative McCalman.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Previous question.
Previous question been called. There's objection. We're voting. All those in favor of previous question vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does every member wish to change their vote? Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 69, 18 nays.
Previous question prevails. All those in favor of Senate Bill 456 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 88, 1 nay, 1 present, not voting.
Senate Bill 456, having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare it passed without objection. Most reconsider table. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 927 by Chairman Hawk and others relative to accepted benefits exemptions. Mr. Speaker, Senate bills on the desk.
Chairman Hawk, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 440.
Chairman Hawk moves substitute and conform Senate Bill 440 without objection. So ordered. Chairman Hawk.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 440 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Hawk moves passage of Senate Bill 440 on third and final consideration. Supply second. Mr. Clerk, call it First Amendment.
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Hawk, you are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Senate Bill 440 is a bill that makes a change to expected benefit insurance, also known as supplemental insurance, and does not touch major medical insurance. Expected benefit insurance is an insurance product that pays the policyholder money to recover lost wages due to an accident or illness and does not go directly to the healthcare provider. It is designed to fill financial gaps left by major medical insurance and to help in unplanned or unexpected events like cancer, heart attack, hospital stays, and the like. The policyholder can use the money for copays, for bills, for childcare, for mortgage payments, etc., whatever happens to life in their situation. This bill clarifies and distinguishes supplemental products from major medical, and that supplemental insurance does not cover mandates that major medical insurance covers. With that explanation, I stand for questions and renew my motion, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Hawk renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Any objection to the question? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 440 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Ms. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 88, no nays, 1 present, not voting.
Senate Bill 440 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare passed without objection. Most reconsider tabled. Let journal reflect Representative Garrett is excused. Call the next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 1060 by Chairman Howell relative to agent fees.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of House Bill 1060 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Howell moves passage. Following second, Mr. Clerk. Any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Howell, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, this bill was brought to me by the County Clerks Association. Currently, a large number of our county clerks provide a service to their constituents, many of whom hunt and fish. And the clerks sell these TWRA hunting and fishing license. Their current fee is $1.50, which no longer covers their cost. In recent years, TWRA has quit selling them directly to the public. They contract with a third-party vendor who charges $3.52. So the clerks are asking for an increase to $3 to be able to cover their costs. With that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Howell renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? See, Representative Powell.
So I have a question. If we're outsourcing this, in theory, I keep hearing this argument, we're outsourcing this government program or service to save money, but it's actually costing people more money. Then why are we outsourcing it? Why is TWRA outsourcing in the first place? Because this, to me, is just an increased tax on hunting and fishing. If the sponsor could speak to that, I don't know why we would outsource something that would then cost consumers more.
Chairman Howell.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill doesn't address that. You'd have to direct that question to TWRA. This bill just simply asks for an increase in the fee for the county clerks.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor of House Bill 1060, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 59, 23 nays, 2 present, not voting.
House Bill 1060 having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare it passed without objection. Most for consider table. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 772 by Chairman Powers, relative to premium finance companies. Mr. Speaker, the Senate bill is on the desk.
Chairman Powers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move to substitute and conform to Senate Bill 766.
Chairman Powers moves substitute and form Senate Bill 766 without objection. So ordered. Chairman Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of Senate Bill 766 on third and final consideration.
Chairman Powers moves passage of Senate Bill 766 on third and final consideration. Second, Mr. Clerk, call First Amendment.
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Chairman Powers, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This bill just updates current law to address payments on insurance premium finance loans by electronic means and allows Tennessee insureds to expedite payment of a loan installment by the preferred payment method. It simply allows credit cards to be used for those insurance premium payments. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Chairman Powers renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So, sponsor, doesn't this bill increase application fees on these high interest loans that these companies are selling?
Chairman Powers.
No, thank you for the question. No, these are not have anything to do with the high interest loans. It's like an insurance premium finance loan. For example, I have an insured. It was going to cost him $12,000 to insure a piece of property, and it was a $4,000 down payment. So he did a premium finance loan for that. He paid by check. All this would do will allow him to pay by credit card. So it's just allowed a credit card to pay for that rather than check or cash.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, but there are fees associated with that application process. As I read the bill, there are fees built into this piece of legislation that allows them to charge up to. Is that not correct?
Chairman Powers.
No, this is merely permissive, and it just allows a credit card the convenience fee that goes to the processor, and it goes to a third-party vendor. If you look in Section B, subsection 1, there's a provision that convenience fee does not exceed the actual cost incurred. So it's just transferring over to a third-party vendor. It does not charge them anymore, and this bill is strictly permissive if they want to use a credit card.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And, but, you know, it's 4%. It says a service fee of 4%. That's higher than the average processing fee that our MasterCards, Visas charge. So there's built in to that. And then there's an additional fee, not to exceed $15. That's more of an application fee. I think those fees go above and beyond what it would take to actually process that piece. Additionally, doesn't this piece of legislation actually bill the receiver? If they're in default, they actually have to pay not only higher interest rates and everything else, but they also have to pay 15% of the lawyer's fee who's suing them. Isn't that built into this piece of legislation as well?
Chairman Powers.
No, this is just simply allowing a credit card to be used rather than check or cash. And that convenience fee that you're talking about is at 4%. Credit cards range anywhere from 3 to 5. I have one that's a 5% processing fee. So that's just an average. So that's all it's doing is passing that along to a third-party vendor, and it cannot exceed the actual cost incurred.
Representative McKenzie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I read this, and I'm going to read it verbatim, a premium finance agreement may provide for payment of collection costs, attorney's fees equal to 15% of the outstanding indebtedness, and any other charges that arose because the party breached the contract. Look, I get you need to pay for your bad debt, but to actually charge up to 15% for the people that are going to sue you, I think is a bridge a little too far. These are already higher interest loans. You're building in fees associated because they're paying it with a credit card, there's interest already built in. Then they're going to pay with a credit card, and you're going to charge an additional fee for that payment plus application fee. And then if they should go into debt, they're going to dig it. This is another hole that you're never going to get dug out of. So this seems predatory. This smacks of being a predatory type of fees or a series of fees associated with it. So this is another troubling piece of legislation which really does not help those people. Anyone going down this road, they're not getting helped. And I know you say this is the last chance, but this isn't the last chance. This is adding another bullet to a bad situation. So troubling piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chairman Powers.
So the insurance premium payment finance loans are done all the time. They're done because people can't come up with a lump sum of like $12,000, $14,000, or whatever it may be. So they will finance that. Sometimes they just finance it for a month or two until they can come up with that money. But it just helps them. The example I gave you a minute ago, somebody was in Georgia, and so they could call and just give you the credit card rather than get a check to go ahead and put it into effect immediately. The collection fees that you're talking about, they do the same thing. If they write a bad check, there's a collection fee and a court cost incurred with that if it's a bad check too. So that's true with a credit card. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion.
Representative McCalman, you're recognized.
Thank you, Speaker. Move previous question.
Previous question been called. Is there objection? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of Senate Bill 766, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 48, 27 nays, 14 present, not voting.
House Bill Senate Bill 766 having failed to receive a constitutional majority, I hereby declare it re-referred to the Committee of Calendar and Rules. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Bill 749 by Representative Reeves, relative to driver's license issued to persons without lawful presence.
Representative Reeves, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move passage of HB 0749 on third and final consideration.
Representative Reeves moves passage following second. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Representative Reeves, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. HB 749 prohibits recognition of out-of-state driver's licenses issued specifically to individuals unlawfully present in the U.S. and the license having a marking to indicate that. It requires the Department of Safety to list such licenses publicly and makes it a Class B misdemeanor to drive with one. The bill ensures only valid lawful IDs are accepted on Tennessee roads. And with that, I renew my motion.
Representative Reeves renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Bain, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. In 1935, the German Reichstag passed the Nuremberg Laws, a series of statutes that didn't begin with violence but started with paperwork. These laws stripped citizenship from Jews and created two classes of people, those deemed legitimate by the state and those marked for exclusion. Daily life, such as driving a car, became criminal for the wrong people holding the wrong papers. Mark Twain once said that history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes. Today, we're being asked to consider a bill that criminalizes people not based on their conduct, but the kind of driver's license they carry, that are valid in other states, but rendered illegal here, not for safety reasons, but who they are issued to. When governments start drawing lines between who gets to move freely and who doesn't based on immigration status, we're not safeguarding public safety. We are resurrecting dangerous ideas from the past, dressed up in the language of the administrative state. We should be very clear about this road this body has decided to take. And I wanted to take my time today to showcase where it leads. I ask my colleagues to vote no. Thank you.
Representative Reeves.
Well, respectfully, we philosophically disagree on Tennessee responding to the threat that illegal immigration has posed in this state and across the United States. I know that my voters and my constituents, and indeed Tennessee citizens who I represent, want us to address this issue. And I know that many in this body have heard the same thing from their voters and citizens in their district. And with that, I renew my motion.
Representative Bain.
I vehemently disagree with you. And I'm just curious about the enforcement mechanism for this. We are creating a subclass of people that will be racially profiled, surveilled, and perhaps even taken because of this. They have licenses from other states that they have gone through the administrative process in states, perhaps states that border us, and yet when they're pulled over in our state, you are giving law enforcement the ability to pull them back into the administrative chaos that they don't deserve.
Representative Reeves.
Well, respectfully, I disagree. This bill addresses out-of-state licenses that are being issued to individuals who are not lawfully present in the United States. Tennessee is under no obligation to honor those documents as valid for driving on our roads. Tennessee has indeed a duty to uphold the integrity of our driver's license system and ensure that only valid, lawful licenses are recognized. Now, some states do issue special licenses specifically for individuals who are in the country illegally, but those are not equivalent to licenses held by legal residents. And HB 749 simply says Tennessee will not recognize driver's licenses from other states that are issued exclusively to individuals without lawful presence and have a marking to indicate that. There is no change to the constitutional restrictions on stops. There must be a valid reason for a stop, and this does nothing to change that. And with that, I renew my motion.
Representative Bain.
And so would this law exclude those that have DACA status or green card status that have been issued a license in a state and they're pulled over in Tennessee? Would these individuals be excluded from this law?
Representative Reeves.
This bill does not exclude or not affect lawfully present immigrants or valid licenses from other states. It only applies to licenses that are explicitly issued to individuals without legal status and are marked as such. And with that, I renew my motion.
Representative Bain.
No further questions.
Chairman Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And look, I think we all agree that the immigration system in this country is broken, 100% broken. President George W. Bush tried to fix it. President Biden tried to fix it. For some reason, our delegation in Washington, D.C. doesn't have the intestinal fortitude to fix a broken immigration system. But the reality is we're held hostage in this scenario because the federal government has refused to act. My question with regard to this piece of legislation is, how is this technically going to work legally? So if another state over which we have no jurisdiction legally or otherwise issues a driver's license to someone and they're driving their family across the country on I-40 or 65 or 24 and they get pulled over, is a Tennessee highway patrolman or woman going to issue them a ticket just for driving through the state of Tennessee legally, it having been legally issued a driver's license by another state? Is that how this is going to work? Because there seems to raise all kinds of interstate commerce and other jurisdictional issues.
Representative Reeves.
I appreciate that question, and I'm glad you asked it. We would actually be the second state to pass a law like this. Florida did this back in 2023. And to my knowledge, there's been no challenge to that. And respectfully, the Department of Safety under this bill would maintain a public list of such out-of-state licenses so that law enforcement has clear guidance. There are currently 2 states that issue licenses to undocumented immigrants and mark them as such. There's about 16 or so states that actually, including California, that issue licenses to undocumented immigrants and do not mark them as such. Those 2 states are Connecticut and Delaware, but this would obviously recognize other states as they decide to do this in the future, and that's why we're passing this bill.
Chairman Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, I mean, Tennessee's pretty clearly distinguishable from the state of Florida because you drive to Florida, you don't drive through Florida. And we're fortunate the way we are positioned in the United States where a lot of tourists, a lot of people travel through our state, increasing our state revenues, building our tax base. They come through the state, commercial truckers and personal drivers and motorists. So I don't understand how this would pass constitutional or legal muster if someone is operating a motor vehicle legally issued by another state and they get pulled over in the state of Tennessee unknowingly and without any intention whatsoever of violating the laws of this state. Now, I know ignorance of the law is not a defense, but this seems to create a lot of legal issues for the state of Tennessee and unduly prejudices individuals who are maybe, as you consider them to be, illegal because our federal government has failed to do its job.
Representative Reeves.
Well, I appreciate those comments. And yes, I agree that over the last 40 or 50 years, our federal government has generally failed to do the job. Over the last 2 months, they're doing a better job. But I consider this another tool in Tennessee's toolbox. And with respect to people driving through or around, I would simply suggest that they go around Tennessee. But this bill does only apply to those special purpose licenses that some states issue solely to individuals here illegally. It does not, therefore, it should not impact our tourism dollars. And with that, I renew my motion.
Chairman Clemens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I respectfully disagree that eliminating due process is doing a better job when we should fundamentally fix a broken immigration system. Eliminating due process is not the answer to that problem. that plagues our country. So I think we have serious legal issues here, constitutional and otherwise, that we're again going to put our state back in the crosshairs of the judicial system. I have strong objection to this law, regardless of your stated intentions. Thank you.
Representative Sapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. For the sponsor, our special session in January had a piece of legislation that had to do with driver's licenses. Is there anything in your legislation that overwrites that or replaces that?
Representative Reeves.
Yeah, thank you for that question. My understanding is they do not conflict.
Representative Sapicki.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And then there was also some nationalities that were brought up on this floor today. I can't find in your bill anywhere where it targets someone's ethnicity or nationality. Is that correct?
Representative Reeves.
That's correct. It generally just applies to those not here legally and issued specific driver's licenses from other states.
Representative Sapicki.
Thank you.
Lear Lamberth.
Oh boy, today is a day for the far left on the House floor. So I will just say this. The sign coming into Tennessee, well, if you don't like that, you're going to love this. The sign says, "Welcome to Tennessee. Illegal immigrants are not welcome." Thank you for bringing the bill.
Representative Reeves. Representative Reeves.
Thank you for the comments. I now renew my motion.
Representative Burkhart.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move previous question.
Previous question's been called. There's objection. We're voting. All those in favor of previous question vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 68, 21 nays.
House Bill 749 and received. Previous question. Sorry, we're ahead of us. Previous question prevails. We're voting. All those in favor of House Bill 749 vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Aye, 68, 21 nays.
House Bill 749 and received constitutional majority. Everybody declare it passed without objection. The most reconsider is tabled. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Joint Resolution 131 by Representative Sparks and others, a resolution to raise awareness of the importance of positive male role models and mentorship opportunities in schools, nonprofit organizations, and faith-based organizations.
Representative Sparks, you're recognized.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I renew my adoption of H.R. 131.
Representative Sparks moves adoption. Probably second. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Representative Sparks, you're recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, members. This is a lot easier piece of legislation, folks. It's a bipartisan bill. And would like to ask my co-sponsors to come up and stand with me if I could, Mr. Speaker. Come on, you can come up here. Anyways, members, I think we carried this about 6 years ago. I think this is an issue that we as a state, we as a culture, we as a society failed to really address. And I'm sure there's probably a member or two that's like, well, this is simple HJR. What is it going to do? Well, I want to read some stats, if I could, Mr. Speaker, that are very startling. I know when Commissioner Strada presented his budget request, we're down about 1,000 TDOC correctional officers, 1,000 down. We're down in so many areas, down in the military, down with teachers, down with police officers. 85% of youth in prison grew up in fatherless homes. Let me say that again. 85% of youth in prison grew up in fatherless homes. You know, it's expensive to incarcerate folks. About 30,000. It's a little bit cheaper to invest in mentorships, coaching, teaching, and other areas. Children from fatherless homes are 280% more likely to carry guns and deal drugs. Addiction and substance abuse, which is rampant in our society, probably the highest right now than it's ever been. You know, I had to preach a funeral of a young man that overdosed on fentanyl last year. Wasn't fun looking over at the casket and seeing the mom and dad. I don't know if any of y'all have ever had to do that. It's kind of rough. A study found that children living in single-parent homes are more than twice as likely to be at risk for drug and alcohol abuse. Poverty and hardship. Fatherless families are 4 times more likely to live in poverty. Children raised without a father are twice as likely to drop out of school. Limiting future economic opportunities. Teen pregnancy. Man, this is an alarming one. 71% of pregnant teenagers come from fatherless homes. Daughters without fathers are 7 times more likely to become pregnant as teens. 7 times more likely. There's probably not a bill up here to address that. Some of these issues are hard to address. But in committee members, Mr. Speaker, I asked some of those guys, because it was only men on the committee, who impacted your life the most? And I heard some pretty cool statements. Representative Glenn said, the Army. Representative Reedy said, the Army and his uncle. Chris Hurt said, coaches, his coach. And this is what this attempt is, just to bring awareness. I could read off all these stats, but Mr. Speaker, if I could call on Chairman Mark White and Chris Hurt to say a word or two. And anyone else that wants to speak, I think Joe Town said he'd say something. Mr. Speaker, if I could.
Chairman White, you're recognized.
Thank you, members, and I appreciate Representative Sparks bringing this bill, such an important one that we have strong role models. I always say that if you have a strong role model of a father at home, we can fix 95% of our educational issues that we deal with every day. But Representative Sparks wanted me to share, and I do it very briefly, a story. Back in 2001, I started traveling to the country of Panama, and for 15 years, I went every 3 months and provided scholarship programs for the young people in poverty down in Panama. Well, during that time, I met a young lady. She was 11 years old, and she was living with her mother out in the middle of nowhere, no money, no food, no father, just terrible conditions. And she became like my own daughter over the years as I went down there. And working with these children, and she's grown up now. She's now in her 30s. But just working with her and all the other children that didn't have fathers in the homes, what they did without. Well, over the years, as I worked with her and spent so much time with her, she finally, when she was like a mid-teenager, she came to me on one visit and she said, thank you for all your love and support over the years and helping me. And she handed me a little yellow Post-it note, and it says, thank you, as I just mentioned, but she says, please turn over. And when I turned it over, she said, may I call you Dad? And no child should have to ask that. Every man brings a young child into the world, and we should be there for them. And so as a result of that, I came back and I wrote a book called May I Call You Dad? Why Fathers Are Needed in the Home. It gives 13 reasons why we need strong fathers in the home for so many reasons, you know. And so I just really appreciate you bringing this legislation. Thank you.
Representative Hurt.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And again, I appreciate Representative Sparks bringing this and bringing the attention to it. And we had a great discussion in subcommittee there, as he mentioned. And, you know, for my male role models growing up that he asked us about in subcommittee, it would have started with my dad, obviously, growing up. And then when I got in high school and thinking I knew everything, it became my coaches. At that time, football coaches were the baseball coaches. And They've had a huge influence on many lives and actually impacted me enough that kind of directed me to want to go into education and work with kids and coach students and young people as I move forward in life. And they were a huge influence to me along with my dad. And then as I graduated college and I started in my career, I lost my dad. I was relatively young. He was at a relatively young age. But at that time, those two coaches, one was now my principal, and I was teaching and coaching alongside the other, fortunately. They kind of picked up that slack through those years for me when I was getting married, having kids, and kind of leading and guiding through that time of my life. So I know for many of us, it's family members, others, it's coaches or other significant individuals in our lives. But it does make a difference and does mean a lot to have that positive male role model in your life. So again, Representative Sparks, I appreciate you bringing attention to it and appreciate the opportunity to speak. And thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Representative Renault.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And thank you, Representative Hicks, for this. We have an epidemic. And while, I'm sorry, no, Representative Sparks, I'm so sorry. Thank you. We do have an epidemic of fatherlessness. And I just want to thank every man who is a role model to someone who isn't a father, every coach, every pastor, every youth pastor. But I'd like to remind us that we have a heavenly Father. When we don't have an earthly father that shows up, it is our duty to introduce these young people without earthly fathers to our heavenly Father. And I pray and hope that you will take that duty as seriously as we take all of our other duties as parents and as role models in our communities. Thank you.
Representative Sparks.
Yeah, Mr. Speaker, I think our last speaker is going to be Representative Parks, if that's okay.
Representative Sparks, is this a presentation? Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I want to thank Representative Sparks for bringing this legislation. You know, I just buried my best friend, right, Pastor Ricky Floyd, who had started this mentoring organization called the Husband Institute, where he brought young boys in and he would teach them and show them and give them the tools that they needed to grow up to be men. I myself grew up without my father, and I thank God for the United States Marine Corps, because it was my drill instructors that really imparted that information, those tools that I needed to grow up to be a man. And I remember what those days were like, you know, absent that father. For the first 12 years of my life, I had a stepfather in the house. And when he and my mother separated, you know, our entire household went to hell in a handbasket, honestly. And we experienced homelessness, homeless 3 times before the age of 17. And dealing with those decisions, you know, because I did not have that fatherly guidance at the age of 14, I was arrested in my high school, second period class, taking my algebra finals, because I was going to shoot to kill 4 other kids. And it's 70% of our inmate population, they come from fatherless homes. Thank God, by the grace of God Almighty, he had his hand on me, and he sent the right person to those principals to tell them that I had a loaded gun in my pocket sitting at that desk. And that saved not only my life, but the life of 4 other high school students in that high school. But had there been a father figure in my house, all of that would have possibly been avoided. This is important. Fathers are important. And we have so many policies and different things that alienate the other parent in the lives of these children. And so again, Mr. Speaker, thank you so much for allowing me to speak. Representative Sparks, thank you so much for bringing this resolution.
Representative Sparks.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Speaker. I renew my motion.
Representative Sparks renews his motion. Representative Boyd, you're recognized.
Question on the resolution, Mr. Speaker.
Question been called. Is there objection? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of House Joint Resolution 131, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 85, no nays.
House Joint Resolution 131 having received constitutional majority, I hereby declare it adopted without objection. Most for here is tabled. Representative Salinas is excused. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Joint Resolution 179 by Representative Sparks and others, a resolution to recognize the mental health consequences of social media on K-12 students.
Representative Sparks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. This is simple HJR to bring awareness of the seriousness of mental health. Move adoption of HJR 179.
Representative Sparks moves adoption. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Representative Sparks, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members and Mr. Speaker, I know that we've seen the rash of suicides at MTSU. It was last year. Remember, there was a student that just threw themselves off the 4th floor of the library. Serious issue of mental health we're seeing. The rates of anxiety, depression, and self-harm have increased significantly since 2010. I don't know how we solve the problem, but do want to bring awareness to the Anxious Generation book by Jonathan Haidt that I believe, I don't know which chairman bought the books and gave them out to everyone on education. But with that, Mr. Speaker, renew my motion to ask for passage.
Representative Sparks renews his motion. Any discussion on the bill? Representative Hemmer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I just want to thank the sponsor for bringing this issue. I had a chance to read Anxious Generation. Proud to co-sponsor this with you and bring attention to this really serious issue of mental health for our youth. Thank you.
Representative Zachary, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move previous question.
Previous question been called. Is there objection? Seeing none, we're voting. All those in favor of House Joint Resolution 179, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 88, no nays.
House Joint Resolution 179 having received a constitutional majority, everybody declare adopted without objection. Most for here is tabled. Call up next bill, Mr. Clerk.
House Joint Resolution 509 by Representative Stevens and others, a resolution to commemorate the 250th anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord.
Representative Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move adoption of House Joint Resolution 509.
Representative Stevens moves adoption. Properly seconded. Mr. Clerk, any amendments been filed?
Mr. Speaker, no amendments filed.
Representative Stevens, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Members, I am honored to present HJR 509 today. This resolution commemorates the 250th anniversary of the battles of Lexington and Concord on April 19, 1775, which together were the first armed conflict of the American Revolutionary War. 250 years ago, 4,000 exasperated colonists showed up to confront the British regulars who were sent to confiscate their arms, culminating in what we now commonly call the shot heard around the world. Risking their property and their lives, the patriot colonists took a stand for self-governance and freedom. Thanks to the bravery of these individuals, the American colonies were able to achieve independence and liberty after 8 years of war, and we are the beneficiaries. If you'll indulge me for just a few minutes, I would like to recount the events of that day and the day before. Prior to Lexington and Concord, the British government's relationship with the colonial subjects had greatly declined, especially over taxation and with London trying to tighten its grip on control. The royal governor, General Thomas Gage, enforced the Intolerable Acts, which, among other things, dismissed local elected officials and closed the Boston Harbor. Patriots in Massachusetts selected representatives to a new governing body. This council decided to begin accumulating arms, munitions, and other wartime provisions, in addition to raising up an army of at least 15,000. Concerned, General Gage made plans to send 700 British regulars to Concord to confiscate the colonists' weapons and munitions. However, Gage underestimated the vast intelligence network that the disgruntled colonists had organized. He also underestimated their resolve and determination. Late in the night of April 18th, the British regulars began to gather on Boston Common. 2 lanterns were lit in the Old North Church to signal that the British were crossing the harbor. You probably remember 1 if by land, 2 if by sea. Revere then began his famous midnight ride with William Dawes to warn the colonists in Lexington that the British were coming, arriving at 12:30 a.m. Samuel Prescott then carried the news on to Concord after Revere was captured. Throughout the night, word of the British advance spread in the region with gunfire, church bells, and word of mouth, while local militia companies gathered with their muskets. At 2 a.m., the British regulars began marching toward Concord, arriving at Lexington around 5 a.m. Little did they know they would be greeted at Lexington Green by over 70 Minutemen. Initially, the Minutemen were ordered to disperse and not engage. However, someone unknown fired a gun, which led to the British regulars firing a volley at the Minutemen. 8 Minutemen perished from this exchange at Lexington Green. The British continued on toward Concord, arriving there about 8 a.m. With orders to secure a famous North Bridge. 400 militiamen had gathered on Concord's high ground, from which they advanced on the British. The British began to fire on the militiamen when they came close enough. The Minutemen then fired back at the British, which is what we famously know as the shot heard around the world from Ralph Waldo Emerson's famous poem. Rattled, the British regulars began a retreat back to Boston around noon, encountering ambushes and fire from angry colonists all along the way. So, what are the takeaways from this commemoration? We need to value our freedom, and in Tennessee, we love our freedom. Average, everyday people stood up to tyranny and made a difference, and we must do that too. So I hope that as Tennesseans, we never forget the patriots that gave their lives that day, and that we honor and commemorate them. And with that, Mr. Speaker, I renew my motion. So.
Oh, I'm sorry. Representative Parkinson, you're recognized.
Remind me of something about me. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Representative, I actually enjoyed hearing that historic account. And I would actually like to nominate you as the person to bring us more of these so that we can, tell that story. And here's another interesting fact. I love history. The interesting fact is this: I think a lot of people don't realize that when the British was taxing those staples, sugar, coffee, things of that nature, the poor people were not the ones affected. It was only the rich people that were affected by those taxes, because the poor people didn't even have access to those staples. But it's interesting how history does here in our country. It was the poor people that were dumping the staples into the Boston Harbor and they were advocating for some reason for the rich folks that had access to the staples, and they didn't even have access to them. So in the reverse of what you're seeing now today, and I'm voting for this too, you had rich people being taxed and poor people being activists for the rich people. So thank you for that. Just wanted to add that detail to it.
Representative Stevens.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. After consulting with both the majority and minority leader, I would ask that everyone who votes in favor of this be added as co-prime sponsors. I renew my motion.
Without objection, disclosure duly noted. Representative Doggett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move previous question.
Previous question being called as objection, seeing none. All those in favor of House Joint Resolution 509, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 89, no nays.
House Joint Resolution 509, having received constitutional majority, hereby declare adopted without objection. Motion to reconsider table. Next bill, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, that completes the regular calendar.
Next calendar, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, the House has a message calendar.
Representative Hammer, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Senate amendment simply ensures that marriage and family therapy practitioners with decades of experience and expertise in the field are grandfathered into the Tennessee licensing framework, allowing them to obtain licensure without unnecessary examination. And I move to concur on Senate Amendment number 2.
Representative Hammer moves to concurrence. Amendment number 2, pardon me, second. Any discussion? Seeing none, any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor in favor of Senate Amendment number 2, vote aye when the bell rings. Those opposed, vote no. Has every member voted? Does any member wish to change their vote? Mr. Clerk, please take the vote.
Ayes 85, no nays, 3 present, not voted.
Senate Amendment number 2, having received a constitutional majority, I hereby declare concurred in without objection. Most read consider table. Next message, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, that completes the message calendar.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Unfinished business.
Representative Alexander, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move that the rules be suspended for immediate consideration of SJR 376.
Mr. Clerk, please read the caption.
Senate Joint Resolution 376 by Representative Alexander, a resolution to honor Tennessee Federation of Republican Women on the occasion of the organization's 70th anniversary.
You've heard the caption. Any objections? Without objection, the rules are suspended. Representative Alexander.
I move to concur in SJR 376.
Representative Alexander moves to concur in Senate Joint Resolution 376. Bobby seconded. Any objection to the question? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. The ayes have it. I declare concurred in without objection. Most read consider table. Leader Lambert, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that SJR 318 and SJR 45 be heard in the naming and designated committee next week.
For the motion, any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Leader Lambert.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Move that House Bill 869 be heard in the insurance committee next week.
You've heard the motion. Any objections? Without objection, so ordered. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, we have a message from the Senate. Mr. Speaker, I'm directed to return to the House Bill 1237, substitute for the Senate bill on the same subject amended and passed by the Senate.
Monday's message calendar. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, I'm directed to transmit to the House Senate Bill 362, the Senate non-concurred in House Amendment number 1.
Monday's message calendar. Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, I'm directed to return to the House Bill 501, substituted for the Senate bill on the same subject amended and passed by the Senate.
Monday's message calendar. Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Scheduling and procedural announcements.
Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, the schedule for next week, Monday, Government Operations, 11 a.m., Room 1. Naming and designating, 1 p.m., Room 1. Private Acts, Room 2. Session at 2 p.m. Tuesday, Judiciary, 9 a.m., Room 1. 12:30, Finance, Room 1. 2 p.m., State and Local, Room 1. Insurance, Room 3. Wednesday, Session, 9 a.m., Judiciary at 11 in Room 1. Finance Sub, Room 3. At 2 p.m. on Wednesday, Room 1, State and Local.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
Roll call.
Take the roll, Mr. Clerk.
Mr. Speaker, 90 members present.
Next order, Mr. Clerk.
That completes the regular order, Mr. Speaker.
Leader Cochran, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I move the House stand in recess until 2 p.m. on Monday, April 7th, 2025.
Without objection, the House stands recess until 2 p.m. on Monday, April 7th, 2025.